This week on News 30, Shawnee celebrates Banned Book Week.
And a local business celebrates its 3rd year. Stay tuned. Welcome to News 30. I'm Melissa Speraza.
And I'm Hannah Lounsbury.
The Tulsa County District Attorney Stephen Kunzweiler has charged Officer Betty Shelby with first-degree manslaughter in the death of Terrence Crutcher. Police said he was refusing to obey their commands after they came to assist when his car broke down in the middle of Tulsa Road. It is unknown whether Terrence Crutcher was armed at the time. There have been protests in Tulsa, but they have been peaceful.
Donald Trump was in Norman for a fundraiser last Saturday as the first presidential debate looms over the candidates. Supporters were willing to pay up to $50,000 to attend the private event. Also in attendance was a large crowd of protesters speaking out against Trump's policies.
And one of the questions on the November 8th ballot will deal with increase on state sales tax. This bill is intended to raise the state education budget and specifically funding to pay more teachers. The bill, known as Question 779, will increase the state sales tax by 1% if passed. While a sales tax increase does not sound very pleasant to most, the idea of helping our state education budget does.
The Oklahoma Department of Human Services is offering an agency-wide voluntary employee buyout. The buyout began in January, and DHS is hoping the buyout will help it deal with a $40 million shortfall by 2017 in addition to budget cuts. There was also a hiring freeze in child welfare workers, and contracts were cut by 3%. The buyout will be based on years of service with 18 months of employee-only health care premiums. Employees who accept the offer will have their last day on March 15th.
Ahmed Khan Rahami has been arrested in connection with the New York and New Jersey attacks that have been happening over the last couple of weeks. The arrest happened on an eventful chase and shootout with police. After the arrest, Rahami was charged with 5 accounts of attempted manslaughter against law enforcement officers, on top of the charges he could face if his connection with the bombings is proven.
A 50-year legacy is nearing its end. The State Fair Arena was built in 1962 and hosted its first event in 1965. Since then, it has hosted over 1,500 high school basketball playoff games, as well as national and international horse shows. A new arena is currently on the drawing boards. The new arena will have seating for as many as 10,400 people for basketball and 7,400 for horse shows.
And stay tuned for a fun activity to beat the heat with your four-legged friends.
And find out about the new artwork around the OBU campus. Thanks for staying with us.
The Shawnee Splash Park is holding a dog swim this Saturday, September 24th. Doggy Dip Day invites lightweight dogs under 40 pounds to swim from 9 to 9:45 a.m. and heavyweight dogs over 40 pounds from 10 to 10:45 a.m. Dog owners must sign a waiver and show proof of vaccination before entering the park. Admission is $5 per dog, with a maximum of 2 dogs per owner.
It's time to celebrate the freedom to read. September 25th through October 1st is Banned Book Week. The goal of Banned Book Week is to celebrate the sharing of ideas without censorship. The week brings together writers, librarians, booksellers, publishers, teachers, and anyone else with a love of books. It seeks to highlight efforts to keep books that have been challenged and censored in circulation. The Shawnee Library will be celebrating its freedom to read on September 24th with a movie night featuring an adaptation of a previously challenged book. The event starts at 1 p.m.
The stars came out for the 68th Primetime Emmy Awards. The awards ceremony was broadcast on Sunday, September 18th, with the host Jimmy Kimmel. The night saw big wins for Veep, including 5th Outstanding Lead Actress Award comedy for Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Game of Thrones racked up 12 nominations this year. It won awards for Best Writing and Directing, but the show's biggest win of the night was second consecutive win for Best Drama. This sets a new record for award shows.
A business in downtown Shawnee is celebrating something big. Main Street Photo Studio and Gallery is turning 3 this year. The studio, which also contains a coffee shop, has brought art lovers all over Shawnee flocking to downtown. Main Street Photo also has art classes that cater to the community and summer camps for the kids. Congratulations to Main Street Photo for your 3-year anniversary.
And last year, Oklahoma Baptist University began work on an art project on the corner of Kickapoo and MacArthur. This art project includes 3 life-size bison sculptures made out of thousands of welded nails by artist Secunda. The project should be completed soon.
In the last 70 years, no one in baseball has managed to hit a .400 batting average. But what if someone did? That's exactly what gave former North Rock Creek teacher Dan Beasley the idea for the new book titled The Last Man to Hit .400. The story features 17-year-old Sylvia Carrigan, a budding journalist, who sets out on a classic American road trip to be the first writer to get the scoop on Major League Baseball player Paul Demeter, the first man in 70 years to even come close to hitting .400. If Demeter succeeds, Sylvia is determined to go down in history as one of the first sport writers to get the story. And she's got one edge that may shock you. The Last Man to Hit .400 is Beasley's, 3rd book to be published.
2 brave women are taking ISIS to court. Amal Clooney, the human rights attorney, is preparing to put ISIS on trial on behalf of her client, Nadia Murad. Nadia is a victim of human trafficking and witnessed mass genocide conducted by ISIS against the Yazidi people. Clooney took Nadia's case after hearing her horrific accounts during her time as a sex slave to ISIS. Clooney gave a speech to the United Nations last week where she urged them to hold ISIS accountable for their crimes against humanity. She said the goal of her case was to bring justice to the 5,000 Yazidi victims of ISIS.
After receiving reports of Galaxy Note 7 phones catching fire, Samsung released the fixed version of the phone yesterday. Owners of the old model can finally exchange them for the safe version after nearly a week of waiting. See Samsung.com for more information.
And after the break, find out how the weather may affect your weekend plans. Stay tuned.
Here's Jake Nelson with your weather forecast.
Well, it's no doubt that it has been hot these last couple of weeks of summer, but today marks the first official day of fall, and with it brings hope for cooler temperatures. 88 is the current temperature outside the studio right now, winds out of the south at 9 miles per hour. We reached a high of 91 degrees today here in Shawnee, 90 degrees in McLeod, 89 in Pink, Tecumseh, and Purcell. Places like Tulsa and Ponca City reaching up to 93 degrees today. Overnight lows looking to get into the upper 60s tonight here in Shawnee, 66 for the low in McLeod, Tecumseh, and Seminole. A bit warmer in places like Tulsa at 69 and Ardmore getting down to 67 for tonight. Tomorrow we're looking at clear starts to your morning temperature in the 70s on your way to work. Then those numbers rise into the mid-80s by lunchtime and will peak just barely in the 90s by your drive home. Looking ahead to your weekend forecast, Friday is looking to be another familiar hot one, highs in the lower 90s. Then Saturday starts us on a potentially wet weekend with rain chances around 60% for Saturday evening with highs in the upper 80s, and those rain chances growing stronger into Sunday with highs in the 70s. Taking a look into next week, rain chances continue from Monday morning, highs at around to mid-upper 60s, then looking at a cool but possibly wet rest of your week. Rain chances remain low and temperatures in the upper 60s to low 70s. And now you're up to date with News 30's latest weather forecast. I'm Jake Nelson. After the break, Dakota Carrington with your next weekend sports.
With your Oklahoma sports, here's Dakota Carrington.
Good evening. In case you missed it last Saturday, the Sooners welcomed the Ohio State to Norman, which led to the death of the Sooners' playoff chances this year with a loss of 45-24. Prior to the game, Oklahoma backup quarterback Austin Kendall clearly did not have a very high opinion of Ohio State's defense. Kendall voiced his opinion by saying that he felt that Ohio State's defense was basic and that Baker Mayfield's abilities were more than enough to light up the defense. When Coach Bob Stoops caught wind of the comments after the game, he said, "I don't know what he could have been watching, to be quite honest, be with you. The last time the Sooners started the season 1-2 was in 1997 under head coach John Blake. That year, the Sooners finished the season with a record of 4-8. For OU to prevent the pass, they have to an uphill battle against games against Texas, Baylor, and TCU. Bob Stoops has been referred to in the past as Big Game Bob, but I look at the past 3 weeks and all I can say is Big Flop Bob. This week the Sooners take a break but resume the season next week against TCU. Up in Stillwater, the Oklahoma State Cowboys looked as close as unstoppable this past weekend against visiting Pittsburgh University. When the Cowboys put up a 45-38 win over the Panthers, the Cowboys had a total of 640 yards of total offense, including an impressive touchdown through the air like the one that started the game when Mason Rudolph connected with James Washington for a 91-yard touchdown. In the Ohio State game, Oklahoma game, quarterback Baker Mayfield threw for a total of 226 yards, while quarterback Mason Rudolph threw for 226 yards in the first quarter alone. Mason Rudolph finished the game with a total of 540 yards through the air. This week in the real season begins with your fantasy football team. By week 3 of the NFL action, you pretty much know who your powerhouse players are, who you're going to start, and who you maybe even are going to bench this week due to last week's performances. Up until the start of the Panthers and Vikings game, you thought you were the true fantasy king, right? Well, if you missed it, the injury bug has bitten your best players, and you are at a loss of words on who to play or who to sit this week. Well, allow me to help you recover from the season-ending disaster you have run into because you thought you were going to rely on players like Adrian Peterson to ride to your league's championships. Well, at quarterback, here's who I think is going to have the biggest impact this week. Ryan Tannehill. Choo-choo! You hear that? Well, that's the sound of the Tannehill Express about to pass by on its way to Cleveland this week. And I would highly recommend that you hop on this train before it's too late. After the performance Tannehill had last week in a game against the Patriots, the Dolphins did not pull off the upset. However, Tannehill did have an impressive game, completing an astonishing of 27 out of 34 passes with a total of 337 yards with 2 touchdowns. Due to unfortunate injuries dealt to the running back position, here's who I think will help you crush your closest opponents. Theo Riddick. I believe Theo Riddick is one of the most versatile players that they have to start this week. This could not go anywhere but up. With Amir Abdullah being out for the remainder of the season due to an injury to his foot, although the Lions have not put complete trust in him yet, with his elite receiving skills and his blistering quickness, I believe the Lions will begin to look at him with a little bit more seriousness. Besides, the Lions still haven't filled that hole since Calvin Johnson left. With these two in your starting lineups, I guarantee you that you will rack up a bunch of points this week. That wraps up this week's sports. Ladies, back to you.
And every child needs a teddy bear at some point in their life, but this girl may have gotten the king of them all. This lucky little girl has gotten one of the biggest bears we here at News 30 have ever seen.
And it is absolutely adorable. The bear was apparently a gift from the girl's grandfather that he found at Costco.
Well, that's all the news we have for you this week.
Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to catch up with us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook at Shawnee News 30. Have a great night.